There is a rule, unwritten but deeply understood, at Blackwood University. When the final library bell chimes at midnight, you leave. You do not linger. You do not finish that one last chapter. You go. Leo knew this rule. He had heard the whispers, the stories seniors told to frighten freshmen. But on the eve of his midterm exam, with a scholarship on the line, Leo made a choice. He saw the empty shelves and the silent study carrels as an opportunity, not a warning. He found a shadowy corner on the 3rd floor, hid from the janitor, and waited for the lights to go out. He got his wish. The silence that fell was absolute. It was the kind of silence that feels heavy, a physical weight on the eardrums. For an hour, he studied, the scratch of his pen the only sound. And then, he heard the other scratching. Not from a pen, from something with long, dry nails dragging slowly, purposefully, across the floor of the periodicals section. One row over, he should have stayed hidden. He should have stayed back on campus. But he ran. And it is always a mistake to run from something that enjoys the chase. Leo burst out of the library's rear entrance, the cold night air hitting him like a physical blow. His heart was a frantic drum against his ribs. He didn't look back. He just ran to his beat-up sedan, the only car left in the vast, shadowy lot. He fumbled with the keys, his breath pluming in the air, every shadow seeming to writhe and twitch. The engine coughed to life. He slammed the car into drive and sped towards the winding road that led away from Blackwood, the one that cut through the heart of the Gable Pine Forest. In his rearview mirror, the library was a shrinking tombstone. He allowed himself a shaky breath. He had made it. He was safe, but the rules of this particular horror are not so easily broken. The thing from the periodicals section did not need to run. It was older than the books, older than the university itself. It simply folded itself into the spaces between things, into the static of a dead radio signal, into the long, stretching shadows cast by headlights. Leo's radio began to crackle, not with static, but with a low, rhythmic sound. A sound like breathing. He spun the dial, but the sound followed him, growing louder, closer. He slammed the power button. Silence returned, but it was a different silence now. It was the listening silence from the library. The hungry silence. And then a whisper, so clear it seemed to come from the passenger seat. It was a voice made of rustling pages and breaking binding glue. Leo swerved, his tires screeching on the asphalt. He gripped the wheel, his knuckles white. He was being hunted, not on the road, but in the very medium of his escape. The car coasted to a silent stop in the middle of the forest road. The engine was dead. The lights were dead. The electronic locks refused to respond. He was trapped in a metal coffin. He frantically pulled out his phone. No service. The screen flickered, and for a moment he saw not his home screen, but a reflection in the glass. A tall, impossibly thin figure, standing just behind his car, its head cocked at an unnatural angle. He whipped around. Nothing there. Just darkness. A soft tap. Tap. The tap began on the roof of the car. Leo froze, his blood turning to ice. It was the sound of a single, long fingernail. The tapping moved from the roof to his window. He squeezed his eyes shut, praying it was a dream, a nightmare. But when he opened them, it was there. Pressed against the glass was a face. It was pale and stretched, with no discernible features except for a wide, gaping maw where a mouth should be. And from that maw, a single black, desiccated tongue unfurled, tracing the outline of the window sill. It was tasting the silence, and it had found a morsel. The door locks clicked open by themselves. Leo was never seen again. His car was found perfectly intact, empty, and utterly silent. Not even the sound of the forest dared to penetrate that metal husk. His story became another Blackwood legend, a cautionary tale told during orientation. But the horror did not end there. Because the thing in the library, the Silence Eater, had developed a taste for something new. Not just for the quiet of knowledge, but for the silence of a life snuffed out. So the next time you find yourself studying late, and you hear a strange scratch from among the shelves, remember Leo's choice, remember his fate, and ask yourself, is that one last chapter really worth the risk? Because the thing in the silence is always hungry, and it always remembers a flavor it enjoyed.